Welcome back to Backyard Wrench Bender. I've been working on my 1968 F-250 truck bed trailer, and I've been giving you updates through shorts. As a recap, I threw the springs and shocks on the frame, getting that thing ready to have the bed put back on it. I went through the bed and did the patches and body work on that, and yesterday I put the undercoating on it. After all that, I'm now to the point of primer and paint. So here's the plan. Today's Friday. I'm going to go ahead and lay down the primer today. I'm going to let it flash over the weekend, and I'll come back on Monday, throw some bed liner down, we'll paint it, we'll throw some more bed liner down, and we'll get this thing ready to go back onto the frame. If you're curious about that order of operations, you're just going to have to watch to find out. So let's get to work. Before I can lay primer down, I need to seal this seam. So I'm taping it off and sealing both sides. This part's so satisfying. Next, I go over the entire body with my DA and 120 grit sandpaper to make sure that the primer has something to stick to.
So let's take a minute and talk about what I'm going to be throwing on this. I've got myself a can of Rusty Metal Primer by Rust-Oleum. There's a lot of these different products out there. I'll be honest, I don't know if any of them really work, but I'm really going to put this stuff to the test on the truck bed. So let's get mixing it. Alright, we start by putting the liner in the cup. We use mineral spirits to thin this down, because that's what the instructions say. And it should be between 10 and 15%. 100 is 16% of 600. So I'm going to shoot just below the 100. And very carefully, in we go. Stir, stir, stir. Pop the top on. Screw the ring. And we're ready to spray.
As I spray, I'd like to point out a few things. First, I did not realize my shop buddy was under the truck. I thought she was inside sleeping. Now what you just saw me do there was adjust my fan on the side of the truck. Normally, you'd want to do this on a scrap piece of cardboard or something. But it isn't a big deal on this project. And we'll get into that in a minute. And I'll be the first to admit, I wasn't able to get the fan quite right. But I got it good enough to do the job. But that rolls into the third point. If you can't tell, I'm doing this outside. A pro would have this thing in a booth, and for good reason. I'm going to get dust and probably leaves in my primer, but here's the important part. I don't care. This is not going to be a showpiece. This is for hauling building materials and yard waste, and for camping. So I'm not interested in making this thing pristine. I'm going for a 10-footer. And for those of you that don't know what a 10-footer is, that's where you see it from 10 feet away and say, that doesn't look that bad. This is a great opportunity for me to practice a skill I'm just not that great at, and there's almost no consequences if I mess up. And something else to note here. As you can see, the bed is sitting on jack stands. Once I get this thing back on the frame, I'm going to have to come back and do some touch-up. But for now, I'm just going to cover the whole thing in primer. Overall, to include the bottom, which I did yesterday, this took 2.5 quarts of primer. That was enough to get 2 coats down on the entire thing to make sure that I have good bond when it comes to painting. Doing the inside of the bed was the most challenging part because I'm on my knees and there are some tight areas to get into. But overall, this is a relatively easy project to do and it only takes about an afternoon to get the primer down. Obviously, you have to let the primer flash before you can start laying down color. And as you'll see here in a second, I've used up all of my first batch of primer and I have to go get a refill. One of these cups actually covers a lot of surface area. And there I go. And with the second cup, I was able to finish the inside of the bed, and I went and used the rest of it to put a second coat down on the outside. I wasn't too concerned about putting a second coat down on the inside because I am using bed liner. That stuff is pretty thick and will protect the inside of the bed pretty well. But I did want to make sure I got one layer down so the bed liner has something to adhere to. And we'll go ahead and speed this part up a little more so I can show you the end result.
Tragedy has struck. Alright, tragedy is a little over-exaggerated. Let me show you what happened. The air regulator on my air compressor broke. In fairness, this air compressor is probably about 20 years old, so it's about time something broke on it. But fortunately, I was able to get my pony keg out and finish primering. Let me show you how it looks. It's amazing what just making it one color does for it. So it's dry to the touch right now, but I'm going to give it at least 24 hours to flash before I do anything to it. There is some orange peel in it, but it's not too bad. I might come back and sand it down a little bit before I hit it with paint. So I think I'm going to take that time and use it to repair my air compressor because I'm going to need that in order to paint the rest of it.